So Ben was a university teacher in physics, and now he's in the support team of Overleaf, and he will tell about the development of the visual editor, all the improvements, and also some considerations they had about the difficulty. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you for the introduction. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that we've been doing at Overleaf. I'm hopeful that I shouldn't have to explain much about what Overleaf is or what it does, because hopefully most people already know. But I've always liked this image because this is what Overleaf is in a visual way. The idea is that it's a collaboration tool that everybody works on the same version of the document at the same time, rather than having their local file changing all the time, seeking out different changes and all the rest of it. And what I'm going to talk about today, I like to think is the next step to this collaboration image. It's not just splitting the authors or the reviewers or readers into different groups. It's about looking at those groups and finding, what do these groups need? What is it that is different about the people in this group that means they maybe want to interact with the document in a different way? And so what needs are there? Well, 3 that I've captured here. My supervisor doesn't know LaTeX, but I need to work with them. Well, change supervisor for colleague or administrator or random person that I've met and decided I want to write something with, and you have the same problem. Do you write it all yourself? Do you get them to do it somewhere else and then translate it into LaTeX yourself? You know, it's just not a sustainable thing to be working with people across different platforms. You might be proofreading things. You might not care too much about the LaTeX specifics at that point in time. You just want to read something where you can make changes and immediately see a result. So you're not having to recompile, wait for that to run, and then see if you've made the right change. And then you want to learn LaTeX. There are a lot of people, and as a university teacher, I am somewhat still staggered by the number of 18-year-olds who now find code intimidating. It's scary. You show them a LaTeX document and they are terrified. I don't understand it, but that's what the classroom is like now. That's what university classrooms are like. So how do we help those people? We don't want to block off LaTeX. We want to try and get them using it. And so we need to come up with a way of helping them engage with documents without scaring them off at the first encounter. And we had rich text in for quite a while, and at the time it used Code Mirror 5, that's what it was written in, and we were able to produce previews of maths, and we did some figures, and we did some nice decorations around things like citations, and we hid certain amounts of code, but because at the time our source editor was using ACE, it meant that when we introduced features into ACE, they didn't translate across into the visual editor. And one of those key features was the collaboration features, so track changes and commenting on a document. You could do it in source mode, but you couldn't do it in the rich text. But we also kind of introduced core principle, which is that we wanted the code to be accessible. This isn't about hiding the LaTeX so that you never see it again or you can't make those changes. We always want you to be able to access the code and just write as you would in the code editor, even if you're working in the visual mode. So always making it accessible. And so more recently, what we've done is we have migrated both of the editors into Code Mirror 6. And what that means now is that the backend for both editors is the same, and the only thing that's different is your visual interaction with that editor. What that means is that suddenly all of the features that we had that worked in the code editor, as we now call it, could easily now work in the visual editor. So advanced reference search, track changes, making comments, all of these things are now working in both editors. As I say, we renamed them to code and visual, so that they reflect how they should be used. it isn't the case that you should always use the visual editor. That might not be the best place to do the specific task that you're doing. So you switch to the code editor. But equally, there are times when the visual editor makes more sense. It also gave access to things like themes, key bindings, different autocomplete or rather the editors were using different autocompletes for some time. Now all of that is the same. And what we have is an editor where we just decorate them in different ways. And the other thing that this has allowed us to do is take a more element-by-element design process. So instead of trying to make a complete thing and trying to address everything in one go, we're able to make changes and bring changes in one at a time and focus on a specific type of LaTeX, think about how we want to decorate it, how we want it to appear, think about how we want people to interact with it, and then we launch that bit, and then we move on to the next bit. You know, let's look at this type of LaTeX, see how we want to do the same thing to that. This is now where I talk even quicker and probably unreasonably fast. So if you get lost, I apologize. I'm going to talk alongside a video. You're far better off just opening an Overleaf project and playing with all the features yourselves, but I will try and cover a number of features that we have in the visual mode during the video. So if we could play the video, please. So we have the toggle to move into the visual editor, and you have a toolbar across the top, which allows us to input different types of things. So we can select the type of text we're writing, we can format it, we can put in some maths, we can have symbols, insert citations, links, cross-references. We can insert a figure, and we have introduced a new figure modal, and that allows us to import images, to choose some simple presets, and insert a figure without writing any LaTeX. So someone who doesn't know LaTeX can just put an image into your document. We can insert lists of different types and change the indentation of the code. We hide the preamble, but you can access it. You can just go in and make any edits that you want, and then we decorate things like make title, so they appear how you would expect them to kind of appear in your paper. You can click into environments and just make the changes without ever seeing the code. We decorate different types of formatting, so here we've got some bold and italics and monofonts in there, and it works as you would expect. You highlight the text, you click the button in the toolbar, and there it is. You don't necessarily need to know what's happening on the LaTeX side. If you want to access something more complex, then you can just click into the reference, make the edit, and click out, and it changes back, so you can update these things as you're reading through. There are different types of environments that we outline and make more visible, so you know that it's an interactable chunk. Again, you just click in, make the changes that you want to change, and then you can click out. You can change the styling, you can click into the caption and write the caption, you can click into the label, change the label, and then you see the pencil icon just there. That takes you back to the modal. So again, if you don't know any LaTeX, you can go in and change some of the presets that might have already been set for you. And when you click done, you see an update. We get bigger. There are some environments that we've not yet decorated, but we have highlighted out. This is now an interactive table. You can still click in and recover some of the LaTeX around it, and then make any changes and any edits that you want to, and interact with it in exactly the same way as you would the figure. As I say, we've now brought features across from the code editor, so you can now highlight things and add comments. You can turn on track changes, and you can make all of your edits without having to switch between the different editors to see the review features. Lists work as you'd expect. We decorate them, so here's a numbered list. If we're working on it and we hit enter, we automatically get \item put in there. We can put in our next item. We can also use tab to make a nested list. And we can do this again and again, however we want. And it also works the same for bulleted lists. And thinking about how the toolbar might be used here, we can also indent and decrease the indentation to make that nested list. So again, you can just work with toolbar buttons if you want. We decorate maths both inline and display. You just click in, make the change, and when you click out, you will also recover back any changes that you've made. And this is, imagine a thesis that takes, even if it takes 30 seconds to compile an overleaf, making a small change to that equation, it's just saving your time. I now want to apologize for making the maths incorrect because it's now going to stay up for a little while longer, and I didn't realize until reviewing this how irritating it made me. But we have the undo button and the redo button, and I want to talk about the power of undo. You're new, you're intimidated, you don't necessarily know anything about LaTeX, and someone sends you a link to this project, you go into that project, and you're stood and you're thinking, I can't touch anything, I don't want to change anything. Putting a big button in front of people that says, you can do anything you want, and then just hit this and everything goes back to how it was, really helps people play around. Now, you could do that all along. There is something psychologically different about putting a button there. It really helps people engage. So, what do we need to think about? Well, how can we handle more variety efficiently? So, I'm sure you're sat thinking, oh, well, the examples you've shown, they all look fairly simple. That's all, rather trivial LaTeX. Oh, how do you deal with more complex things? Well, that's the challenge. Hopefully we'll get that. It's all about making it efficient. Yes, the best way of dealing with these things is to put them through a tech engine and see what the output is. That isn't the efficient way of doing what we want to achieve here. How much code should we hide? That's a really important. We don't want to hide everything, so you never see any LaTeX and think that, or someone coming new to Overleaf thinks, oh, I had no idea that LaTeX underneath. That's not the point of this. We don't want to hide everything. What conventions, styles, things that we use, there are many ways of achieving the same result. If we provide a button for people to do it, which one do we pick? How do we decide between two different ways of doing the same thing? What I have seen, and I like WYSIWYG conditioning, do you put people into the mindset of thinking they are limited by the toolbar? Because we're not hiding all of the code and you're able to get into it, we hope that that's not going to happen. But we do think about it. We do think about, is a WYSIWYG for LaTeX? Are the two compatible? Where do we stop? Where do we draw the line? But sharing behaviors and features across the editors, they need to work in different ways now. So although we have the same editor, and although we want the features to work in both editors, the way you interact with them, the type of behavior you see, may be different. And again, we've got to think carefully about how that might change. So the takeaways then I kind of have are providing parity to different code editors is difficult. And at one point in time, we had 3 different editors, and supporting all of them was taking a significant amount of developer time. Producing a new feature was slowing us down because we had to do it in 3 different ways, and it's just not sustainable. So by reducing down to one backend and moving to the system that we have now has been far better. Just because we know how we write the LaTeX doesn't mean we know what the button does. And equally, just because we know what we want the button to do doesn't know how we would write the LaTeX that it should do. And this is the crux of everything that we're doing, really. Trying to figure out how you do something that can be quite complex, how you reduce it down to simple actions and simple interaction buttons is really difficult. But providing these interfaces has enhanced users' experience. It is really pleasing I work on the support team, so it's really pleasing to see the messages which are, oh, I really like your new visual editor. I really like working in this place. And in fact, the 3 needs that I outlined at the start, which we had said, yeah, they sound like their user needs. We think they're good. You know, there's some research to support that. In the feedback since we released the visual editor, we've seen in the comments coming back that actually those needs are things that people are saying back to us. They're saying, oh, this is really good because it's helping me learn LaTeX, or I can now work with my supervisor because I can just tell them to use the visual editor. So again, it's really nice to know that by thinking about what they wanted and asking them beforehand, when we've implemented it, that is what they're using it for. So with that, I do, as I say, on the support team, so I reserve the right to redirect any questions to a more appropriate person, but I will now take any questions that you have.
Thanks a lot. I must admit that Ben wanted to make a live demo, and we waited until last Wednesday to tell him that it was not possible and that he would have to prepare a video. Thank you for taking the effort. Other questions?
So, I'm not sure how much information Overleaf stores, but do you have metrics on how many people are using either of those 2 tabs?
We do. I don't know the number off the top of my head. What I can say is since launching the visual editor, so we've had rich text in for a while. Since we launched the visual editor, so that's CM6 bringing the features across, that usage has gone up. And we are still seeing that usage go up. So I don't have an exact number for you, but it has increased. Ooh, Tom may have an exact number at some point. 2%. Is it 2% at the minute? Okay. Yeah, so because now all the features that were in the source code are now accessible from the rich text, from the visual editor, we're now seeing people start to realize, oh, I can do this, and this is here, and now I can get into access to that, yeah.
Different documents require to have different templates for the same things. So I could imagine that one document wants the table captions to actually be above the tables, another document requires them to be below. Will there be a possibility for the user to define the templates of the predefined buttons? Yeah,
so the figure modal that we've put out is our, I would say is the first iteration of our figure modal. You know, it's the simplest that we can do. We will look at options of saying, well, you know, it's fairly easy to say, oh, I want the caption above or below or whatever it might be. So adding in those options works, yes. So yeah, we'll look at doing that where we can. The WYSIWYG conditioning kind of thing that I spoke about as well, that includes things like making people understand what we're showing, how we're decorating that editor is not what their document might look like. What we're doing is we're making it easier for people to write or to read or proofread their document. We're not giving them a preview of exactly how it's going to look in the final state. So getting that balance right and communicating that is, again, something that we're looking at, because you're absolutely right. You change journal and suddenly make title looks completely different for you. So yeah.
Thank you.
When does Overleaf does the update of the PDF? Do I have to push a button, or is this done on the fly?
So, that didn't have it on. So the green button at the top of the PDF, you can also do Control, Command, Enter, or S. But yes, you have to initiate the recompile. There is the option of turning on an auto-compile, which kind of detects when you haven't made an input for a certain period of time and then runs a compilation for you. But yeah, most cases you would have to manually recompile.
Thank you very much for this, because making tech available for non-technical users, you really made my life much easier. And thank you very much for this. I don't know whether it's appropriate here, but you told that you are going to redirect some questions to appropriate people. There is one suggestion. Okay, for people who work with me on Overleaf projects, for non-technical people, there is a feature or absence of a feature which is showstopper for them. And let me tell you what is a showstopper. We have a corporate account. It means that you know exactly email of everybody who works with a file, but you are not using it right. People want to do what they used to do with Google Documents. When I click review, I could put the name of a person who is responsible to the changes, tag, and the system would send an email, and in very good situations even make an entry in some log and says, for example, Boris, you should change this thing. And when I resolve it, it should send email to the originator, Boris, and so on. So the lack of integration with email is, for many people, a very bad thing. And it's strange because for corporate accounts, you know all the emails, you have all the information.
Yeah, no, I certainly I will pass that on and pass on the feedback. I think the use case that you've described is something that I've heard before, we're aware of, and absolutely we're looking at, because, as you say, we want to make it easy for people. That's the whole point of what we're doing. And just to say, although the questions bit might not be the place to give feedback, I'm here for the rest of the conference. Other people from Overleaf are here as well. Give us feedback. We are here to listen. If you have feedback, please give it to us. Please, it will get passed on and we will think about it. So please get in touch if you do have anything. Yeah.
The preview of the math mode in the visual editor,
yep.
I assume that this is using MathJax.
Yes.
So this is not going to have access to any of the custom macros that are defined in the preamble, right?
Partially, not currently.
Are you doing something smart about it, is the question, essentially?
If it's in the editor, the decoration has access to the full editor of that file. So if it's defined in there, then we can start doing that, and we are looking at starting to do that and make more custom commands. So yes, Tom might have.
Yeah, just a quick comment. We are looking into two solutions, actually. One of them is we have a quite a reasonable parser, so we could parse all new commands directly, which would be useful because we could parse them from other input files than the file you are in, for example, the main file. The second option is just give all the new commands because we have them to MathJax, because MathJax can parse new commands. So that's the two options we are looking into, like sort of allowing MathJax to see everything or just doing our parsing and search and replace, basically, a very simple one. So we are looking into it, but it's quite a lot of work, to be honest. So no promises there.
But the key thing is that the code mirror gives you access to everything in that file. So if it's defined in that file, we certainly have access to look at using it to decorate things further down.
Can you show us the last slide again? The very last one.
That one.
Yes, exactly that one. Would it be easy for a proofreader to insert some handwritten material like this one, histogram and handwritten formulas, as a remark to the author, for instance?
If for instance they used the figure modal, took a picture of it, then that would be relatively easy to do now. Yes. So you mean actually annotate that document? So not currently. We don't currently support annotation of the PDF. No. Sorry.
Is it possible to see and download all of the auxiliary files that are generated during the processing the tag files? Because I saw that they are hidden now, but sometimes it would be nice to see all of them and open every or some of them together.
Yeah, so next to this recompile button, there's a logs pane there.
Yes, but
if you have,
see it's one by one and we cannot see the...
But at the bottom of that, you have access to all the files that were produced during the compilation. You can download all of those files. Right. So you can't see them live, but you can see them as final output.
How can I download them together, not one by one?
Yeah, so in that, there's a button at the bottom that allows you to download all of the files so that you can view them.
Okay, thank you.
Are there some other questions? We have plenty of time. Okay. If not, let's thank again Ben.